This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, everybody, it's 1 o'clock on Thursday. Time for our Monday through Thursday 1 o'clock podcast. By the way, apologies for yesterday. As you may know, I live in a very rural area of the country, and the internet was out in our entire region yesterday. In fact, I drove into the town that has a stoplight. I live near two towns. One has a stoplight, one doesn't. And just to see what was going on, I drove into town, the town that has a stoplight, and there was no internet there either. So it was a regional thing. So we were delayed. We got it done, but we were delayed in our podcast yesterday. So apologies to anybody who was inconvenienced. That stated, let's hop right in. And we're going to try something a little bit different today. We've got Charles with us today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what's on the screen in front of you. And then I'm going to ask Charles his thoughts and opinions. We're going to still try to keep this thing down to, 7, 8, 9 minutes. But hopefully, we're by adding a second person here, maybe any questions that come up or clarifications, we can address those. All right, so here we go. What you see on the screen in front of you is from our second citizens petition. We're going through the both citizens petition page by page. We've already done the first one. Now we're doing the second one. And as you can see here, this is the beginning of the statement of grounds in the second citizens petition. And what I wanted to point out here was number 1 through 5. Those 5 things right there. That's what matters in the world of toxic tort, the discipline of toxic tort. The discipline of toxic tort. Okay, tort means law. So this is toxic law. The discipline of toxic law is all about what do you got to do in court to prove that somebody poisoned somebody else. That's what toxic tort is. What do you got to do to prove that somebody poisoned somebody? Okay, and there are 5 fundamentals of toxic tort, of toxic law, and there they are on the screen in front of you. Okay, number 1, general causation. Number 2, specific causation. Number 3, signature disease. Number 4, biomarker of exposure. Number 5, biomarker of disease. And overwhelmingly, in the world of toxic tort, you don't get all 5 of these. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, number 1, general causation. That would be something like cigarette smoking causes lung cancer. Opioids cause damage to the DNA. Opioids cause methylation in the promoter region of the OPRM1 gene. Those are what's called general causations. That the potentially toxic substance is known to cause a harm. Okay, cigarette smoking is known to cause a harm. Opioids are known to cause a harm. Okay, and so that's what general causation is. Specific causation is would be cigarette smoking caused lung cancer in Michael Johnson. I made the name up. Okay, that the potential toxin, the poison, caused a harm in a specific person. That's specific causation. Okay, and we go over these both in great detail in our first citizens petition. So if you want to know more about the general causation associated with the opioids and their DNA damage, it's covered very well in the first citizens petition. If you want to know more about the specific causation of the opioids and their damage to the DNA, it's there in great detail in the first citizens petition. And so the third one, this is the specific disease. Okay, the signature disease. This is the signature disease. This is a disease that occurs in no other setting. Okay, so you can't say sore throat, you can't say back pain, you can't say chest pain. Those occur in a lot of different settings. This has got to be something that only occurs in the setting of this poisoning. Okay, lung cancer is not a signature disease of cigarette smoking. Lung cancer, it just happens even in non-smokers. Okay, so since lung cancer happens in non-smokers, you cannot say that lung cancer is a signature disease of smoking. So even in the big toxic tort lawsuit of smoking, they didn't have a signature disease. Now we have a signature disease. Okay, our signature disease is the loss of control in the nervous system that occurs when our people experience opioid withdrawal, when our people attempt to stop taking the opioids. Odds are, if you're listening to this podcast, either you or someone you know has experienced opioid withdrawal. Okay, that is a signature disease. Opioid withdrawal is unlike anything that's ever happened in the history of the world, and is unlike anything that's ever happened in the history of medicine. That is our signature disease. The watery eyes, the runny nose, the yawning, the rapid heart rate, the abdominal cramping, the loss of control of the bowels, okay, the pouring sweat, the hair standing on end. And from a laboratory perspective, the loss of control of the adrenaline levels, the catecholamine levels. That's our signature disease. Okay, so we have general causation, we have specific causation, we have a signature disease. Okay, and as we put together our first lawsuits, which we're starting to do now, we're at that point. We will have all three of those. But the next one there, the biomarker of exposure. Okay, I don't want to lose anybody here. It's really a biomarker of exposure / biomarker of effect. I got a little confused by that. So for all intents and purposes, if you come across the term biomarker of effect, I just kind of combined it all into biomarker of exposure because that was just easier for me to understand and easier for me to explain. Biomarker of exposure means something that happened in the body that happens only in response to this poisoning. In our case, something that happens in the body only in response to exposure to the opioids. Doesn't happen in anything else. Okay. And for us, okay, it took some time to do. It took years to do. It took a lot of work. Okay, but we bird dogged it down. We did it. We isolated. We figured it out. We nailed it. Okay, we developed a test that is the biomarker of exposure. Okay, we can detect the damage in the DNA that is done by the opioid. Specifically, it's a methylation in the promoter region of the OPRM1 gene, if you want to get technical about it. But we did it. So when we file our court cases, we will have general causation, specific causation, signature disease, and biomarker of exposure. Now, will we have biomarker of disease? That's the holy grail. That's the high watermark. Okay, in the lab, we got a pretty darn good idea what it is and where it is. Okay, and in the lab, we got a pretty darn good idea. We can isolate it. We can bird dog that down. Okay, it would take us about 4 months and $400,000 in order to do that. That is not a cheap thing to do. There is nothing in the world of DNA that's cheap. Just like there's nothing in the world of Formula One racing that's cheap. Okay, if you're driving a Formula One race car and you go out and get a fuel injector, you're going to pay a whole lot more than you would at the automotive store. Okay, and that's just the way it is in some disciplines. Formula One racing is stunningly expensive, and DNA research is stunningly expensive, mainly because the parts and components and stuff that you use are you got to kind of build them every time. When you're doing research, you got to kind of build it. We had to build the stuff to do our biomarker of exposure. We had to build that. Okay, and when we're trying to isolate this biomarker of disease, we got to we have to build the tools, and that's not cheap to do. So we estimate $400,000 4 months, and we will have biomarker of disease. So our overwhelming hope here is that as we get these first lawsuits filed, and Charles, we certainly hope that you're going to be one of those first lawsuits, that as we get those lawsuits filed, we're going to be able to continue our work and somehow, some way, some shape or form, isolate the biomarker of disease. All right, I am, golly, I'm way long today. Charles, if you're still there, hit your microphone. And Charles, I'm going to just ask you one very simple question. This is what I'm going to ask you every time we're on this show, Charles. Did what I say make sense today, or does it just sound like that I'm just rambling and it makes no sense at all? Charles, it's all yours.
Well, to be honest, if you're a layman, a lot of it doesn't make sense. But I understand it because I have been doing the research on this, and I understand these are just conditions that you have to meet to file this lawsuit. Is that correct?
I would say yes. If you're going to have an effective lawsuit, these are
Right,
the
right.
yardsticks by which
O-
we will be measured.
Okay, I have a question.
Please.
Is there anything that we can do to help you with the biomarker of disease? Do you need samples? What do you need
No,
other
we
than
held on to the samples, and we held on to the samples in a way that's patient de-identified. We only know them by the code that's been put on them, so we don't know who they are. So
right?
we've got samples. It's literally time and money.
The
Time is
thing
well.
is, the thing is, I would most people when they hear this, they're thinking about, when they hear about tort and the law and all these requirements, they kind of their eyes glaze over because they're thinking this is something, 10, 20 years down the road, or it's not going to affect them, or I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but I can understand why they sometimes the talks are a little bit over people's heads. But I understand the main thing we need to get across to them is that you've been poisoned, that you have a life-threatening situation going on. That's the main thing that I want to get across to people is you are in a life-threatening situation until you get stabilized, you know? And
Right.
and we just need to make them understand how serious this is. I mean, how many people have died, how many people are gonna die, and that they could pass this on to their kids and their grandkids. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
But
and we'll
I
be getting
didn't
into
I
that
didn't
next week.
realize it, at first that happens, but that's unbelievable.
Yeah, the transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. We're going to be getting
Exactly.
into that next week. Let's hold here for today. Let's conclude this week. And Charles, why don't we pick up here on next week? Now, there is a chance that Alex has some. Well, Alex picked up another job, and we might have to move from 1 o'clock to 2:30. But that'll depend on what Alex says. Uh, uh, we'll do well whatever Alex
Yeah, you
says is
just
what
let me
we'll do.
know.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Remember, post this podcast on your social media, like and subscribe to us, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye now.
Bye.